It took me some time to figure out the title of my talk, Introduction to Theravadin Buddhist Training. One of the purpose of my talk is trying to give you an idea what Buddhist training is about. These days, whatever that you want to know, you can always Google, right? When you Google, you get 10 different versions of it. You can read about it, and then either get confused or you come up with a hazy idea what is reliable. Then most of us probably rely on something much more, a little bit more authoritative, which is called Wikipedia. Right? So we find out, Wikipedia says this, so it's probably most likely to be true. That's quite true as well. But then if you're an expert, and then when you read something about Buddhism, because Buddhism has so many different, if you like, varieties, Mahayana, Theravada, Vajrayana, then whatever they write on Wikipedia, it depends on the author, whether it's leading towards Mahayana, Vajrayana, or Theravada. So then you see one day you read about this, and then a couple of months come back again, it changes. Somebody has written their own version, and it's slightly different. I've seen that happen. So I know because one is leaning too much towards the Mahayana, and now one leaning towards Theravada. So I have both. So what I'm going to talk about is, you can say it's a version of my view on Buddhism. But there's something that comes from practice. The first thing that I want to emphasize is that it is more of a training rather than a practice. For the reason that when you practice something, you try to perfect it. Whatever that you're doing, you keep doing the same thing. In the case of training, you don't do the same sort of practice. You do different things depending on the level you're at. Right? And you have an aim in mind, what you're doing. It is not blindly doing something repeatedly in the case of practice. In the training, you monitor your progress. Right? Whether you're training a horse, a dog, whatever is it, you see the progress. And then you can have different training methods depending on the animal you're training, person you're training. So it is progressive, and method changes. Alright? So in Buddhism we have a goal. I'll talk about the goal later. But it's more of a training than a practice. And then it's sometimes on a general outlook, we can say that there are people who are attracted to Mahayana, there are people who are attracted to Vajrayana, there are people who are attracted to Theravada, and because they have a particular strong tendency for something which they like. And if they like something, it's much easier for them to pick up and learn. So in all three traditions, the trainings are different, but the goal is the same. How true is it that Buddhism is a training? Right? Is it something that I've just invented? Right? One of the descriptions of the Buddha is that he is the perfect trainer of men who wish to be trained. Right? So that's the description of him. He sees himself as a trainer. And when we start, so are we in training? We are very far from it. We are very far from being trained. We are just trying to figure out, right, what this whole thing is all about. Right? So that's part of my talk, fundamental. When I've talked to a number of people, the most fundamental thing is that you have to believe that a person is made up of a body and mind. Or some will say that, well, you're made up of body and brain, you know. Mind is something very elusive. We have no proof that there is a mind, you know. And they can cite, you know, because of scientific research, we know a lot of things. It's the MR scan of the brain, lots of scientific evidence. We have to get past this idea that we are made up of a body and a brain. If you have a body and a brain, then there's no mind to train. There's only the brain to train, you know. So you can say we're trying to train the atoms, you know. Which the brain is composed of. Now, there's much more. Right? We are much more than just a brain. Because there is this thing called experience. There's this quality of experience, right, which is not composed of matter. Right? And there's this quality of experience that is stored, however it is stored. Right? So if you say that this quality is stored in the brain, right, that quality somehow must be made up of atoms or something else, right? Because in the idea of the brain, is that everything is physical. Mind, when you're talking about mind, you're talking about something that's non-physical. Now, if we believe that there is only a brain, then we have problems, because when we come to quality, it's much more than that. We can develop that quality. We can destroy that quality. We can change that quality. Right? So, matter is affected by the quality. Right? And what are those qualities I'm talking about? Those are the quality of experience. Experience of fear, experience of joy, experience of amazement, any form of experience. So to really start from the very beginning, you have to believe, believe that there is a body and there is a mind. And it is the mind that we are most concerned about, right? Because that's something which is something we would like to know more about. We know a lot about the body. We know how it will progress from the time when we're born to the time when we pass away. It's affected by the food, it's affected by the environment. And it's also affected by the mind, something called the mind. So the most fundamental is that you have to believe that there's a body and there's a mind to be trained. Now, so what are we to do with this mind? How do we train this mind? We have to have a kind of description of what the mind is. You can have, well, there's lots of description of what mind is, what mind is like, but from the Buddhist perspective, there are also lots of description of what the mind is like. But I want to start with something we all know. That sometimes we know that there is a mind and there's also the heart. Right? Seems strange that that sometimes there's a mind that we know we want to do something, but the heart doesn't want to do it. So is there a heart or is there a mind? Right? Or is just there's a mind, or is there's just a heart? Well, the best attitude towards that is to know that this is something you have to find out for yourself. Right? What the mind is, what the heart is. Is there just the mind, or is there just the heart? Even though if I were to give you an answer, there would just be an answer, right? And you will conceptualize what it is, right? And the training is part of this. Discover what is this thing called mind, what is the thing called heart, and what we can do with it, how we can develop it. So we have to start somewhere. Unfortunately, we have a teacher called the Buddha, and he says, well, we have the body. Everybody knows about it. So for the mind, we will divide it into 4 categories. Right? That's the category of feeling, which we all know about. There's the category of memory. It's something you know about. And that's the category called thinking, which is something we know about as well. And there's another category which is called the mood of the mind, which is consciousness. Now the Buddha is not trying to give a theory, What he's trying to do is trying to teach you what you already know. What he's trying to do is trying to train you to handle all these things. Feeling. Sometimes there are feelings we cannot handle. Memories. There's some awful memories we cannot handle. Thinking. There's sometimes that we cannot stop thinking. Stop worrying. Mood of the mind. depression. We don't know how to get out of it. Right? So each of these categories causes a problem. What is that problem that it causes? Suffering. Right? Suffering. And that's the reason why the Buddha left his home to discover whether there is a solution. There's a way what this suffering is. Is there a way of getting out of suffering? So that's the First Noble Truth. That there is suffering. That's fundamental. We have to admit that. Right? We have to take that in. We can say, well, yeah, there's suffering, there's happiness, but I'll just forget about the suffering. I'll just concentrate on happiness. Right? But suffering won't go away. Right? They'll always be there. Right? As soon as you finish with the happiness, right? Then there's the one thing of the happiness which causes suffering. There's the missing of the happiness that causes suffering. So wherever there's happiness, there's suffering. And wherever there's suffering, there's also happiness. Because after the suffering, you get relief. And that's happiness. I'm no longer suffering. Right? So the Buddha went out on his way to discover whether he can do anything about this suffering. But this suffering is this suffering something that is part of the human life. It's something that we cannot do anything about. Or it's something we can do something about. Can we relieve suffering? How much of this suffering can we relieve? Or can we get rid totally of this suffering? And if it's possible, how do we do it? So that's the quest of the Buddha. And before he can find a way to end suffering, he has to find out what's the cause of suffering. Alright? We all know craving is the cause of suffering. And then you have to. The Buddha came to discover that there's actually an end to suffering. That's a third noble truth. And then there's a path towards the end of the suffering. That's the fourth noble truth. So the fourth noble truth is fundamental basic. We can first, we know the First Noble Truth. We accept the First Noble Truth. Then we try to discover whether the second Noble Truth, which craving is the cause of suffering, whether it is true or not. We have to investigate the cause of suffering. That's the whole purpose of the practice, to investigate, to see for yourself. Right? Even though if you read the whole of the Tripitaka, the Vinaya, the Sutta, and the Abhidhamma, you won't get rid of suffering. It's only by looking at the cause of suffering, right? Then would you be able to say, yes, this is the cause. So the third thing that we have to understand, or a view that we have to take on, is that for every effect there is a cause. In the physical world we know about it, right? But now we're talking about the non-physical world, in the mental world. Every effect has a cause. So by acknowledging that this is a fundamental law of the nature of the mental world, if we do not acknowledge that, and there's no way of getting rid of the effect. If we say that the effect is random, there's no way of getting rid of the effect. If you say that the effect is due to divine intervention, then you have problems, right? So it's only when you come to acknowledge and see for yourself that for every effect there is a cause, right? Believing it will take you so far, right? But actually investigating and seeing for yourself that for every effect there is a cause, right? And once we come to see more about it, to have more confidence in it, then we can pursue that method to search for the cause of things that we do not know. Cause of anger, cause of selfishness, the cause of cruelty, all these causes. Yeah? So that means we have a lot of work to do. What we're trying to do here in treating the mind is something which is difficult, right? We are trying to train the mind to change the mind, right? Come think of it. We can compare this to something much easier for us to grasp, like one of the most complex body movement you can think of is gymnastics. You know, I don't know much about gymnastics, but I'm taking it as an example. So in gymnastics, the gymnast has to be trained from very young to do all these fantastic movements in there, you know, somersault, whatever it is, you know, all these complex things, you know, within a short space of time. And they train themselves in different ways to get to that state. And if you give a potential gymnast an encyclopedia of how to make a gymnastic movement, I don't think he will be successful in doing that, right? But if you give him a competent teacher, right, then he will be successful. Because a book can't really train you, right? You may know about all the theories of how you should stand, whatever you have to do to complete the gymnastic movement. You're not able to do it. Right? Because the body is not flexible enough. The body is not responding fast enough. Right? So in the same way, when we're training a mind, we need a teacher to help us. And we have to train in the way in which our teacher, who has gone through the path, who has been trained by somebody else, who have actually been able to execute whatever he's doing, getting rid of all the in Buddhism what they call defilements, things like hatred. So in the same way, when we are undergoing training, we have to be trained by a teacher. It's only when you can't find a teacher, then you have a go at yourself. That's the last resort. Right? So it's just like trying to if you compare it to trying to learn gymnastics from an encyclopedia, then you know how difficult it is. Right? There are many reasons. There are many reasons why. I don't have to tell you the reasons why training is good. The many things, simple things like, when a trainer trains you, trains you after a particular time and says, yes, you adapt, you're good enough, you can go to the next level. Right? Or you have to work on this, you have to work on that. Right? With the book, you don't know what level you're in, whether you should go to the next one, what else you've got to practice. There are lots of things you don't know. Right? You don't know yourself. You don't know what you need to execute. There are 1,001 reasons. Right? So you might be perfect in this thing. Right? But that thing might just help you in a little bit. Right? You're not doing the important thing. Training is important. Because we want to be trained. Well, that's also a fundamental thing. So, in this age, you are lucky, right? Because there's much more freedom of movement, right? I can get from one place to another within 15 hours, on a plane. You find a teacher. Save up the money, you're going to find a teacher or something like that, But 50 years ago, 30 years ago, people are not so fortunate. Right? So if you have the opportunity and if there are teachers around, then you do want to have a teacher. Saves a lot of time, a lot of agony. That's the one. If you really think in terms of gymnastics, then you know how important it is. Don't forget, we are trying to train something much more complicated than a body. Right? You're training the mind. You have this bit of you, which is the wisdom, who wants to train the mind. And that's a bit of you, which is the delusion, which wants to prevent you from training the mind. So it always gives you reasons why you shouldn't do it. Gives you reason why there are other better things to do. Go and have a cup of coffee, instead of doing meditation, Go on Facebook, Stay a bit longer in bed. So these are the things, It's much more difficult than gymnastics, right? So you can say, what gymnastics of the mind, right? So you have an opponent to beat as well, right? And that opponent is, don't forget, is as smart as you, right? Right? So you're very good with your logical reasoning, Your opponent is equal to you, right? So if you can convince something that's wrong is right, right? Your opponent can do that. There are many times you'll be fooled by your opponent, which is your delusion. It is difficult. Why do we want to train? Why do we want to train? Why just bear with the suffering and then, take whatever happiness we want, Keep running away from the suffering. Keep hiding the suffering, When you come, just go and have a cup of coffee or go to the cinema, go and have a swim, or go jogging, Well, the thing is, we have these inherent tendencies, right? And that's another fundamental truth. These inherent tendencies that we have. Inherent tendencies, habit. These are the things that will stay with us if we don't get rid of them. And if we continue with the bad tendencies, it will strengthen. If we continue with the good tendencies, it will strengthen. So we can't get away, right? It's with us. It's not outside there, right? It's not outside there. When you get angry with somebody, right? It's got something that's outside there, right? That whatever that's outside there, it's just a trigger, right? A trigger for the habitual tendencies come out. So everything out there, everything that's up, things you see, things you hear, things you touch, things you think about, those are only triggers for something that's already inherent in you, condition. This embedded condition in you. It's true because different people react to different things, right? And the question you answer is why? And the answer is always, because he provoked me. Right? That doesn't solve it, So we got to find the cause. The real cause of the effect. Acknowledging that this inherent tendency that is in us, that is something we have to do, something we have to deal with, comes under the First Noble Truth of acknowledging that there is suffering. There's this imperfection within the mind. There's this stain in the mind. What is the cause of suffering? I'm going to make it simple. The cause of suffering is either you're holding on to a craving or you're holding on to a view. give it up because you like it. Right? And when you crave for it and you can't get it, there's suffering. With views, it's the same. This is the view that you like. Right? And when it doesn't match with the world or with somebody else's view, and there's a lot of angst. You know, different, this is right. Or believe that this is right. You know, if this is right. Anything that other than this is wrong. Alright? And we have a problem. Alright? Because we hold on to the view. Right? So the trouble that's happening around the world is either due to craving or to view. War start because of the different view. Communism versus fascism. Any ism. Any ism is a view. Right? Hold on to that ism. Right? Nothing else is correct. This is the way it should be. Right? If I can't get it my way, I'll use force. Right? Or I want to defend my way. Right? Or this is the best way, I'm going to impose on everybody, so everybody live peacefully. You know, under this way. Okay. We're not here to solve the problems of the world. We're here to understand and train our own mind, so that we do not hold on to craving. We can give up craving. We can give up view and still be happy. So what are the goals? What are the goals of training the mind? Well, there are three which is important. First, like I say, is being able to give up views. Right? Being able to give up craving, lust for anything. That's the first thing. Giving up greed, basically, craving, giving up greed. So if we can let go of greed, or attachment, or craving, then we can feel at peace. And we can even be generous. Huh? And the second one is to be harmless, non-cruelty. There are times when we can be cruel, but we don't notice it, you know. So we try not to be cruel. Try to be harmless. And from there, compassion will develop. And the third one is not to hate. Right? Non-hate. Which means having goodwill. Right? And from having goodwill arises loving kindness, metta, friendliness. Well, it seems like a big job, you know, all that. But the good thing is that as you go along the training, you get some measure of this, you get some measure of peace, some measure of happiness, some measure of goodwill, right? Some measure
of harmlessness. Okay? So it's not that either make or break, we develop because we train, right? We become better gymnasts, right? Better mental gymnasts. We might not be able to do a triple somersault, or we can do a single somersault with our mind. So that's the start. So that's the purpose, that's the goal, right? And if you have a lot of zeal, a lot of effort, you might find the ultimate happiness, right? Which the Buddha says it is possible, that there is an end to suffering. Well, you say, well, it's difficult, getting to the end, it's tough, it's a long way, there's a lot to do. Mine is difficult. Why do I have to do it? I've only this life. But is it true that we have only this life? Well, we have something as powerful as the mind, right? It's not going to simply kill over, when the body goes, when the body stops functioning. Alright? Mind doesn't say, oh yeah, the body goes, let's go home or let's disappear or something like that. Right? The mind has a lot of craving. And one of the biggest cravings is craving for existence. Right? Well, that's one of the reasons we are fearful of that. Because of what that says. People defend themselves. Right? Because they don't want to die. Right? The mind doesn't want to die. Right? When the body cannot function anymore, the mind, one way or another, find another place to go before it leaves this body. It doesn't give up that easily. Right? You know that the mind doesn't give up very easily on craving. When you crave for something, you want it, you suffer for it, you still won't give it up. Look at all the addicts, right? Alcoholics, any addicts, craving so strong. Even though they're suffering so much, craving is still there. That's how strong craving is. Even when you're dying, even when you're done, craving still won't give up. Finds another place. Finds another body. And what happens if you can't find another body? Well, the theory goes, it creates its own mental body. Right? So you can have a person in a non-physical form, of ghosts or spirits or angels, whatever you want to call it. And this is not something you have to believe. It's something when you come to practice and look within inside yourself and you see how powerful the mind is. Right? How powerful the force of craving is. Right? So it's a good thing, right? In a sense that the mind can be powerful. So when we get rid of all this delusion, when you get rid of greed, when you get rid of delusion, when you get rid of hate, then we can become a powerful being, great being, the greatest being. Right? That's the other flip side. Right? That's the good side. The bad side is that we continue to carry on living from one life to another. We continue to exist. Right? Some of you may come across, everyone will always come, so what's the purpose of life? Right? You always say, what's the purpose of life? You know, I ask myself, what's the purpose of life? What's the meaning? What am I here for? Right? And for myself, towards the end I found out, well, it doesn't really have a meaning. I can attribute any meaning to it. I just give it a meaning. I give myself, yeah, this is what I'm going to be. That's life is what's all about. Be this. Then you do that. Be that. Be that. That's good. Be this. You give it meaning. Because we continue to crave for living. That's all. Just like we continue to crave for food. Eat every day. Just to live. You know? You want to live. So that's what the Buddha calls samsara, the cycle of birth and death. Because we have this craving to exist. What's the other side? What happens when you become a great being? Right? Do you exist? Do you not exist? Oh, that's where you find out. Right? Okay? That's where you find out. You know? But if we get rid, even a little bit, of him, we have a little bit more happiness, a little bit more peace. And not only that, we do not cause unhappiness in other people due to our head. Alright? So we are doing something good for ourselves and for others as well. Not only for ourselves, by training ourselves to be a better person, we are good for others. Americans call it a win-win situation. Right? Buddha would call it as the best type of person. A person who does good for himself and for others. There are three other types. The second type is the person who does good for himself but not for others. And there's another type, person who does good for others but not for themselves. And that's the worst type, is the person who does no good for himself and no good for others. Well, that's the worst type of person, right? Don't want to go near that person. So having known that for every effect there is a cause, craving is the cause of suffering, holding on to views is the cause of suffering, and there's actually a total end of suffering, which is very difficult to reach. Right? And there is also a path towards the end of the suffering. And it's a big subject. Path towards the end of the practice. Although these are the things that about Four Noble Truths that we acknowledge that yes, there's this suffering, and there's a way out of this suffering. And by training ourselves, we become better for ourselves and for others. Not only in this life, and for the next life. Right? Now, believing in the next life is problematic for people unless you come to really experience kind of the nature of the mind. Right? So, and if you acknowledge there is a future life, then you must also admit that there must be a past life. Right? So if there's a future life, if you've gone to the future, that means you must have come from the past. Right? Okay? So if you're here, you must have come. If you believe in the future, that means you must have come from your past. So it's not logical to believe in the future life without believing in the past life. Because how can you get to the future without the past? Alright? Because you are here, there must be past. Or you totally believe that there is no future. Then you are here by accident. Right? If you believe there's a future, right, then you're definitely going to the future. Then you can get to the future from the past. Alright? So if you believe that, then it's only logical to believe that you're here because of the past. Right? And there's another good reason. You can only become a Buddha if you train for aeons and aeons and aeons. That's the Buddha, that's what the Buddha says. So you can't just become a Buddha like that. You can't have all this insight, all this knowledge, all this wisdom, all this practice, all this compassion, just within 30 years or something. So it is. The Buddha has trained in the past, many eons, this monk. But he made a determination to become a Buddha. And he was confirmed that he can become a Buddha by another Buddha. So that's the historical, the history of it. So the fact that the Buddha exists, Buddha can only exist if they are past life. Right. So if we acknowledge that the Buddha is a great being, an enlightened being, then we have to acknowledge that he come about to that position through his previous training. We don't know what Buddha is like. You can't comprehend what the Buddha is like. But if you have met some people, who have trained themselves, and you see people who have got compassion, wisdom, maybe somebody, some of you who come across the Dalai Lama, met the Dalai Lama, seen the Dalai Lama, So you know that such a person exists. That there are really people who are compassionate. There are people who really do not have hate, very little hate. There are people who have very little lust. There are people who have lots of wisdom. And the Buddha is beyond that. It's incomprehensible. So if you meet people like that, then it gives us an idea, it gives us hope, that it is possible, right? So all it is a good trainer. Okay, so those are the fundamental views that we have to have. What happens if you miss one of those fundamental views that I have mentioned? You can still continue with your practice, but it's not as effective. Right? Because each of those views gives you the motivation, gives you the strength to do your practice. Right? So, if you happen not to believe in any of those views, or you check that you're unsure about those views, it's much easier to believe things. Belief is very easy, but it's a good thing to start anyway, right? So if you don't believe, just try to convince yourself, and then find out whether it's true or not. If you believe, then it gives you the motivation to practice. So like Buddha says, I only teach the end of suffering, the way towards the end of suffering. I don't teach anything else. Right? So when you see people, when we talk about the body, we making up of 5 categories or 5 khandhas, body, feeling, memory, perception, thinking, consciousness. That's just categories which the Buddha classified in order to help us to train. Right? He's not saying this is it. Right? He's not claiming, the world is like this, whatever it is. Whatever he teaches, it's just a method towards happiness, harmlessness. Fearlessness.